So Joe Biden is officially the 46th president of the United States. But one thing you will have noticed, or you might have noticed when listening to his inauguration speech, is that he didn't mention Donald Trump. He mentioned other former presidents. He mentioned Mike Pence, who was there. He mentioned senators and congresspeople from both parties. He mentioned Jimmy Carter, who wanted to be there, but given his nearly 100 years of age, couldn't attend. But he didn't mention Trump. And, I think that's probably for the better. Now, it would have been one thing if Donald Trump had been mentioning Biden and Melania Trump had been mentioning Jill Biden in their closing speeches over the past few days and over the last week. But President Donald Trump, former President Trump, has never mentioned Joe Biden in any of his concession speeches or partial concession speeches or in any of his remarks acknowledging that he will be leaving the White House. He always says, I'm handing off power to a new administration, but never once mentioned who those people are. And so I think turnabout to some degree is fair play here. Joe Biden was probably correct and had the ability, had the moral argument to not mention his predecessor if he wouldn't be mentioned by that predecessor. But just because Trump wasn't mentioned doesn't mean he was totally ignored. Because in this speech, Joe Biden made a clear point of condemning those people that used lies for power and profit. And look, I know Donald Trump is not the first president to lie. He will not be the last president to lie. Joe Biden will tell his fair share of lies, and he already has. This is a man who lied about going to jail with Nelson Mandela during the early days of civil rights in South Africa, right? This is not a man known for his sterling record of truth. But I think it's important to recognize that Donald Trump in many ways was sort of, even for top U.S. politicians who have a loose relationship with the truth, he was especially egregious. And a lot of the media apparatus around him was especially egregious. And Chris Wallace on Fox, after this speech, basically said that line was crucial. And Chris Wallace sort of called out his own network without saying it live on Fox, saying those of us in the media who have perpetuated lies for power and prominence and profit sort of need to reevaluate, look at ourselves in the mirror and ask ourselves, do we want to continue destroying the country and the world just to further ourselves a little bit? And I think, honestly, they're going to learn nothing. I'm not very optimistic, but maybe the question's being asked. Now, people want to know my general take on the speech. It wasn't the worst speech. I don't agree with Chris Wallace that it was the best inaugural ever. It was perfectly serviceable. Tons of cliches and things like that. One thing to realize is that Joe Biden is really pushing hard on this unity angle. And I understand that. And I don't expect anything different. But I really do think that Joe Biden is going to face pressure, and rightfully so, from people within his own party, especially a lot of regular Democratic voters, that unity cannot come without accountability. And you can't just make that about Trump. There's Ted Cruz, there's Josh Hawley, there's Jim Jordan, there's tons of people in the House, not just Jim Jordan, but there's tons of people in the House. There's Ron Johnson in the Senate, who all in varying ways did lasting damage to democracy. And, they're still around. They're still around in a way Donald Trump isn't. So, there needs to be accountability. There needs to be accountability to right-wing media. And I don't know if I 100% agree with this narrative Biden is trying to push that, I'm going to be president for everybody exactly as much as if you voted for me than as if you didn't. I kind of see that as a problem, if I'm being honest. You really leaned into certain people hard to make you president. People that have faced deep historical and contemporary struggles. Some of the poorest people, black women in particular, absolutely made you president. And won you those Georgia Senate seats, which will give you more control while you're president. And so I think you should be governing on behalf of the people that voted for you first and foremost. And I think that this desire to just, maybe bend over backwards for compromise and unity is only going to lead to the sorts of policies that don't help the people that put you in the Oval Office. And so that's a concern I have. And we're seeing it in early days. The $1,400 checks, they should be $2,000. Voters in Georgia already feel betrayed by that. So Joe Biden has to be careful here. He's going to get a ton of goodwill. He's going to get some leeway because he's not Trump, but he is not going to be given the treatment Barack Obama, got in 2008. People are already more skeptical of him than they ever were of Obama, and he needs to realize that. He needs to realize that there needs to be accountability to Trump's enablers, and that he needs to make a priority the people that made him president. And I don't know if that's going to happen. I mean, we've seen mixed signals. The $2,000 checks, they became $1,400. That's going to anger some people. On the other hand, a lot of his day one executive orders are keeping some pretty key promises. Not all of them, but they are going to, in small little ways, make life better for a lot of marginalized people. And I think that's important to recognize. So on this channel, as we move away from the Trump era, we're going to cover Joe Biden with good faith. And what I mean by that is when Biden does good, we'll acknowledge it. And when Biden does bad, because he will do a lot of bad, we will acknowledge it. And we're going to hold him to account. As Bernie Sanders and AOC and so many others have said, this has not been the defeat of Trumpism. This is a breather from Trumpism. There's no guarantee that in 4 years, we won't go back to it. The world won't go back to that. And so, if you don't fight for the working class, and if you don't fight for the people that voted for you, you will fail, Joe Biden. Remember that.